OEM condenser versus aftermarket condenser. So here's one of those situations where had a leak, the complete charge leaked out. It was in an accident. It had an aftermarket condenser. Let's see, this is the aftermarket condenser. I'm not picking on these guys because I've seen other aftermarket condensers have problems in other situations. But sometimes when you order a condenser from one company, they don't always all make their own condensers. Sometimes they white box them from another company and they slap their label on them because it's just impossible for one company to source and make and manufacture through their own manufacturer. Usually just importers. So like when I went over to China to source parts and tools and stuff like that, I went to a sourcing supplier outlet on an expo, and they're, oops, we got the wrong condenser. Okay, so the Honda we got is a wrong condenser, and so this will be another video for another time, and that's the OEM. Okay, let's see what we're looking at here.
Well, maybe not, but
the
just holes don't line up.
The holes,
or do they? They line up?
well, the only thing different I see is this one's flat here, and this has like a little bend over tab underneath on the aftermarket. This is flat.
This is, looks a little wider too.
Well, that happens sometimes. Wider and taller does happen with aftermarket to OEMs, but does it fit in there? Will it fit over and hit these notches and then line up? So we line up with threads up there.
Maybe it is the right one. It just kind of, yep, I guess it is. All right. Well,
Yep, it just looked different because
it looks different from
it was.
those
That's aftermarket. Yeah.
Okay. Well, continue the video.
Yep. So on this one right here, what we have, what I've often seen, if you get a pair of veneer calipers and you actually measure the distance of this hole, if you're so much as sometimes just a thousandths off in each direction, and then you go to this hole here, you'll notice that when the O-ring seats, so pretend my knuckle is the top of the O-ring, and when you push it in the hole, it'll smash down and it'll squash, and so you have a big surface area touching. And when the metal expands and contracts with heating and cooling, you know, you'll get a little flex because the hole will get larger and smaller. Well, when you have an aftermarket and it's already like a thousandth or 2,000, instead of the O-ring smashing like this, it'll only barely touch at the very top. And when you expand that aluminum, it gets a little bit bigger, and then the refrigerant lets loose. And this is a common problem.
You want to change the O-ring on both of them?
Change the O-rings on both of them, yeah. And another thing you'll notice, if I could get it in the video, can you see how many? Can you see? Oh, I don't have a light to look in there, but if you could barely see and read that, actually how many little tubes and orifices are in the piping in the refrigerant flow. In there, come on, focus. There you go. You can see all those little tubes and fins, and that's the finnage inside the piping. And then we come back to the aftermarket. This one is close. Yeah, this one's not actually bad as some of them. Some of them, when you look inside here and you go to see the finnage per inch or per centimeter, however you want to do it, you'll notice there's a lot fewer tubes and finnage inside the tubes. This is not the worst one, definitely I've seen. This is actually right up there with okay, unlike many. So this will cost them the cost of a recharge of YF, which was 725 grams. So we're approaching almost 2 pounds. That's almost $300. That's $270 in refrigerant. And it leaked out due to an aftermarket condenser. The line was still OEM, and they put OEM O-rings on there. Those were OEM, but it was just let loose at that fitting. There was no damage to the old O-ring. So they got diagnostic fee, 1 hour, whatever your shop rate is, plus your evacuate, recharge, time and materials. So there goes another $400, all because what, saved $80 on a condenser, maybe $100. I know sometimes it's outrageously and it's a big amount, but when it's down like $70, $80, $100, don't risk it, because if you're on a YF vehicle and you lose all the charge for this, you're paying a second time. When I started my business nearly 30 years ago, because I already had nearly a decade of experience starting as a teenager with my dad in air conditioning, one of the things we noticed between aftermarket and OEM was the amount of leaks that would happen because of not being exactly right on the machining. And so my stance was, if you put on OEM, I will eat the labor and diagnostic, finding the leak. I will eat the materials. I will eat the labor for the recharge, everything. I'll do the whole entire thing for free. If you put in aftermarket, you get charged again. If you put in aftermarket a second time, trying to find a different aftermarket manufacturer that leaks again, I will charge you again and again. And I actually had one shop do 3 condensers, and 3 condensers had a problem before they went after. So that job for them, and I remember it was on, I can't remember what it was on, but I remember the shop because they were a notoriously cheap shop, and we were insurance companies liked them because they were so cheap. But after the 3rd condenser, and that'd be the 4th time recharging, they were charged. They put the OEM on and they had no problems. And I explained to them, this is a choice. You made a choice to use something that was a so-called quality economy part, and your quality economy part leaked once, twice, 3 times, and I warned you even before you put it on, and you do it anyway. Like my dad used to say, if you do something and it breaks or doesn't mess up because you don't know, that's just lack of education, lack of experience, your ignorance a little bit, okay? But if I tell you what to do and I tell you what's going to go wrong or go happen, and you do it anyway and it screws up, then you're just plain fucking stupid. That's all. And this has been a thing that's gone on from the ages of the beginning of cars when aftermarket stuff comes in. So that's it for this video for now, and this is a constant problem. It used to be a lot worse decades ago. So decades ago with aftermarket, their quality was so low and the leaks at fittings were so high, it was just horrendous and ridiculous. Manufacturing, with the trickle down of technology for manufacturing condensers, they've gotten very close to OEM levels, and some are actually OEM, and they could rebox them with another name on them, but they were actually OEM, but they just put them under another line and another name. You get lucky when that happens. Years ago, instead of going to Ford Motorcraft and going to the dealership, you would get, who was Motorcraft? No, you had a Ford factory direct, and I think Motorcraft was their aftermarket division. You could buy the same condenser out of the same manufacturer, boxed in 2 different boxes, but maybe have a $100 difference in price. If you bought it from the dealership, it came with their Ford logo on it, and if you bought it from an aftermarket source with a different logo but from Ford, it would be $100 cheaper. Same went for Chrysler, same went for GM, and there are some of the automotive Bear. So if you had a Bear original German car with a German Bear condenser on it, you used to be able to get it from an aftermarket source from somebody else in a different box with a different name on it, but it would still be the OEM with the Bear sticker on it, but it was just white boxed and relabeled. So hit you up on the next video after I recharge.